Hello, Iris.
Hello, Naama. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, everyone. Today we are going to present our presentation that we entitled Those Who Take Responsibility Make the Rules. This is part of Naama and mine research that was conducted in Jerusalem about the street-level bureaucrats and their roles in ESE policy. Our main question, which led us to this research, was whose responsibility is to act upon environmental issues? Is it the city? Are these the schools? Is it the state? Is it every individuals? What do you What do you say, Naama?
Yeah, Iris, I'm trying to remember when we started looking at the literature, we saw that there's a gap actually about policy.
Yes, that's true. So our gap was that most of the studies in ESE policy are in the local scale, and we don't quite understand how it works in the local scales of municipalities or schools or other local context. Most of the studies are also non-empirical, and they focus on teaching, on learning, and not on how a policy is developed or enacted. And they focus on the international and national levels. However, Stevenson's and other scholars claim that local actors such as practitioners and educators are neglected from the discussion and the discourse which is connected to ESE policy. And in our study, we fill this specific gap.
This is too bad because we definitely found that they have an important role. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what policy is.
Well, policy, at least in the education field, is about rules and documents and decision making about ESE. Policy could be a combination of top-down and bottom-up processes, and here you can see the complexity of policy. And more specifically, in our research, we are dealing with bottom-up processes that were carried out in the city of Jerusalem.
Maybe you can tell us a little more about these bottom-up.
Sure. Lipsky in the 80s has coined the term street-level bureaucrats, which means these are the civil servants who employ and implement policy that were decided up in the governmental level, which means we are talking about nurses and educators and policemen and so on. Hansen emphasized that these street-level bureaucrats have an important role of balancing. Because they have a discretion and autonomy, they could make the balance between treating all citizens alike according to governmental decisions versus being responsive to individual cases and requirement and make them appropriate to local requirement and needs.
So policies don't really happen exactly how they are articulated.
Exactly.
Based on this. And are they also, innovating, or are they just implementing stuff?
This is a very good question. Arnold has found, together with other scholars, that these street-level bureaucrats do not only implement what is written in the documents and in the rules, they also invent their own ideas, generate their own ideas, and follow their own ideas. Therefore, they should be called in terms not only street-level bureaucrats, but street-level policy entrepreneurs. And this is the specific term that we follow in our research. As we talked, we focused on Jerusalem, the big city of Jerusalem in Israel. And in Jerusalem, study about 300,000 students in 4 different educational streams: secular Jewish schools, religious Jewish schools, ultra-Orthodox religious schools, and Palestinian schools. In Jerusalem, there is a tradition of school autonomy enhanced by the current Jerusalem Education Administration.
So it definitely sounds like these street level policy entrepreneurs have different populations to deal with, even if they have similar policies.
Yes, and this diversity make Jerusalem a very interesting and complex city to follow up and to make a research about it.
All right. So what was the question that we went with?
Yeah. So we aim to examine the interactional processes in which these street level policy entrepreneurs are involved. More specifically, we asked what are the drivers of successful implementation and initiation of local ESE policies in different educational contexts in Jerusalem. And our methodology, we use the case study. Our research is qualitative in nature. Seven primary schools were participated in our study, and 3 different educational streams were involved in our study. We used semi-structured interviews with 7 teachers and with 3 municipality actors. And we also made school observation to see what's going on in the field, and we used relevant documents. Naama, what have we found in our research?
Great question, Iris. So we were asking what drives successful implementation. And when we talked to the street level policy entrepreneurs, we found 3 motives. So they were coming from 3 different places. The first one, and maybe the most straightforward one, was environmental. And you can see here the quote, there are these learning units where I talk to teachers and we all contribute, whose purpose is to create experiences or broaden the perceptions of the children's relationship with the world, how they affect the rainforest in South America, what is global warming, and how it relates to me and how I can influence it, how I am adversely affected and what I can do from my position to fix it. So we see here a teacher who has a policy of like science education, and he makes a discretion to give specifically this kind of education, environmental sustainability education, that he thinks is important. So that's a discretion in policy. But that was not the only motive that we found. The second motive that we found was social. So some SLPs were actually implementing environmental and sustainability education to face social issues. For example, one teacher told us there are a lot of kids who come to us with literacy difficulties. This means that it is difficult for them to succeed in the trivial areas of knowledge within the classroom. So we utilize the spaces outside the classroom to experience success in areas of teaching that are outside the classroom. So,
What do
as
you,
you can
sorry, nothing.
No, I love talking to you here and to all of you as well.
So I was asking, what about the rebranding? But go ahead.
Exactly. So the rebranding was actually really interesting. Apparently in Jerusalem, there's a special project that the municipality runs to help schools reinvent themselves and to advance innovation in education. And one other teacher told us parents were not happy, students were not happy. 4 other schools in the neighborhood succeeded in being unique, and the enrollment began to decrease. Teachers left, student left mid-year. A new principal came and she realized that something had to be done. So over there in that school, and that was not the only one, they took this policy of innovation and the way that they did innovation in their school, the way that they colored the school to be unique and rebranded was with environmental and sustainability education. So we see here different implementations of policies with environmental and sustainability education.
So what about the sources for their initiatives?
Great question. So we found that there are three types of schools. We had schools that are innovators. That was the emphasis. There were schools that were self-sustaining, that found the resources within their normal operations, and there were the ones that were collaborating with organizations from the outside. So the collaborators and the innovators, as you can see, were able to find funding from the outside world, either from organizations that support environmental issues, or from organizations or from the municipality through the innovation program. As you can see, there are things that are more about street level bureaucrats, really just making a discretion in a policy that exists. But there are so many components here that really need the innovation, really need someone to bring them into the school. They need an actor to find them and initiate them. And we definitely found that actors were also acting as street level policy entrepreneurs and not just as street level bureaucrats. A very important factor in the success of these initiatives was that the municipality was very supportive and actually had a program for innovation. And we'll just read this quote in the bottom of this page. "I see myself as a place where initiatives are channeled, and I can help them develop financially, in thinking, in connecting to city departments, and connecting teachers to all sorts of things that can help them. That's my ambition." And that was the spirit that we met in all the different interviews that we had with people in the municipality and in the documents that we got from them. Yes, is there anything else that we wanted to mention here?
No, but I have a question about the next slide.
Okay.
When you're talking about agency and embeddedness, what do you really mean about it?
So going back to our first question, what are the drivers that make an initiative of ESE succeed in the organizations, and what is the role of the actors in doing that? We found that there are actors in the schools that have agency to some extent, and are also embedded in the system, and that they are using their agency, and that their embeddedness impact their ability to work with this agency. So they're using their agency for discretion and also for innovation in the capacity that they're able to find in their organization. And just to wrap our short talk with something that is connected to that, I think that both of us agree that one thing that was really strong for us from when we realized our results was that when you're following policies only from the top down, you'll basically miss a lot of things that are happening on the ground, on the street level. And following the policies from the street level actually allows us to find the specific local opportunities. In Jerusalem, for example, that was innovation that are being used by street level policy entrepreneurs to advance environmental and sustainability education, not just through dedicated policies.
I would like to add another Israeli example. For example, in Israel, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Environmental Protection are leading eco school program, and they are giving money for schools. And in many studies, the point of view was to follow the level of school sustainability promotion based on their involvement or not involvement in the national eco school program. However, if there are schools who are not involved in this national program but implement other local initiatives of sustainability and environmental education, they are not included in such studies, and we miss data. We miss important data here.
Important opportunities to really advance these policies and bring them to practice. So thank you. That's a great example. And I think it's time for us to leave our viewers with few of the main insights. And of course, you're always invited to read the full article, and we'll give you the citation in the next.
Let's leave it for a few seconds here, Naama.
All right. All right. Okay, I think we're ready, and we're doing it from two sides of the ocean. Iris is starting her day. I'm about to finish, and maybe you can realize that from my stumbling on my words. But we really had a pleasure. It was our pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you at the panel.
Definitely. All right. See you soon.
That's it.